is Sean with VoicesLiveon, and we're here at the Meridian Restaurant doing a little stories of the community. And we have Joe Dugdale, and your family has been the proprietors of Kincaid's Meat Market for how many years now?
We've owned Kincaid since late 2015, but it's been in existence since 1921 and in its current location since 1936.
Okay. So the purpose of these are so the people that come into the Meridian can learn a little bit more about the community, as well as hear from local business owners and community leaders, and also save stories of grandparents and seniors and families up here in the Fireplace Lodge room.
Brilliant.
What do you think of that concept?
I love it. I'd love to actually give some of my insights and feedback on what it's been like to exist in this area since I was a high school student.
And you went to North Central High School, is that
did.
right?
I graduated in 2005, and my brother graduated in 2002.
So to bring it back, you guys actually started working at Kincaid's when you were when you were Indian high school and when your brother was in college when he was 20.
So yes, we would help out during the holidays just because quantity was an issue and they needed more hands. So we would come in and do anything we could to help out, just try to be good community service members.
All right, so let's kind of talk about the previous family. Who was the previous family and what was their background and kind of what was the transition to your family?
So my original boss, his name was David Rollins. His wife was Vicky. He was the son of a lady named Dorothy. And Dorothy was blood lineage to the original owner, Loma. And he is the L in L.E. Kincaid and Sons. So Loma Kincaid and his sons opened Kincaid's. It just so happened that one of his daughters is the one who ended up with it, and her son David is the person who sold it to me. So that would sort of, that's how the name changed. So David's last name was Rollins because his mother Dorothy married out of the Kincaid last name and was ending up as the owner of the store inevitably.
So you handle a variety of things in the store, all perishable, obviously.
Yeah, everything perishable.
From meats to cheeses to seafoods to charcuterie supplies, jams, barbecue sauces, dry rubs. What are some of the more unique items within those categories that you have?
So the most unique thing we'd sell probably is Japanese beef. Things raised outside of the country are always
Is this Wagyu?
That'd be Wagyu. So stuff from Miyazaki and any prefecture of Kobe is difficult to come by and not as readily available as you might think. But we took the risk of trying to sell some and have done a reasonable job at it. We also offer seafood, so it doesn't get touted as much because most of it stays frozen, but we get about as cool of a scallop, crab leg, lobster tail, and even some different wild-caught salmons when they're running. Those rivers are running right now, actually. But what else?
Some gator, you said you were...
Oh, yeah. So some of the oddities, we sell rabbits and alligator tail meat. We're trying to accommodate the broader range of clients that could be in the area. So if you came from the South and you want to make jambalaya or gumbo, we need to have crawfish tail meat. We need to have smoked andouille and all sorts of different items. Some people come from out of the country, so we've gotten pretty well versed at Brazilian recipes that include picanha, which is the culotte off the top sirloin, or Korean cut short ribs, which is really, really thinly sliced beef short rib, but you basically have to use a bandsaw to get it nice and thin. But we can accommodate anything as long as we get some human-to-human interaction and solve some problems for you.
So something I thought was very interesting was that, and this was kind of back in the day a little bit, but how old delis would work in major cities, they'd have a number system. And you had a numbering system up to 100 people.
That's right.
And that would have to wrap outside the building.
Yeah. So we would call it number roulette.
Would they be in the front or back in the parking lot usually when that would happen?
They would be scattered throughout the store at random. So that was kind of the difficult task, was recognizing which part of the herd you were trying to talk to. But yeah, eventually people would take their numbers to organize themselves, but we would run out of a number because we only had 100. So at about 85 or 90, we'd start saying, who's holding 90? And they'd say, I'm 90. And we'd say, well, now you're number one. And so that would get all the numbers back on the little Rolodex for people to grab them again. But we weren't allowed to do that after pandemic. So.
And you've evolved to what type of system now with actually machine cards?
So we went to the ticketed one, but then we got rid of the number system altogether. So we went with enter in the rear, exit in the front strategy, which organized everybody as they flowed through the store. So by the time you're up near the register, you've been helped and are preparing to exit, versus if you're in the back of the store, you're likely not helped yet.
So when you were young, I mean, you're starting to work there when you're 17, and you said that, you know, essentially it's been since then till now.
Yeah, off and on. So I did go to college in between. I went to IU, but I would always come back and work the summers and the holidays. And toward the end of my tenure down there, I actually scheduled myself so that I had Thursdays and Fridays available to come back and help on the weekends. So I'd do classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then summer school at IUPUI was always an option. But yeah, for the most part, I tried to be as visible as possible because inevitably I always wanted the store as my own. It was something that I grew really fond of once I realized why it was still there. I didn't really understand that in the beginning, but accommodating the requests of the neighborhood and all of the occasions and events that surround whatever holiday and or tradition or special occasion they're coming up with almost always revolved around an item at a table. And it was usually a meat item. So that dawned on me, and then I thought it was important that I was the one supervising the production of those things, because once I knew right from wrong, I could help basically anybody if they were intimidated by the topic. So that was a comfort zone that grew, but it wasn't instinctive.
So David was your boss.
David was my boss,
the previous owner. What are some of the systems or things that he instilled on you that are still used today?
So David was a really masterful cutter, and his cleanliness and ability to make something look really, really neat was something I really strived for. I wasn't certain how exactly he could manage the level of detail he got. And to this day, I don't think I still spend enough time on stuff to get to his level of detail. But man, if there's one thing, it was the knife skills. He had really come up. It was his family business, so he had spent his younger years there. By the time I met him, he was in his 50s. So he was savant level in certain things and was getting bored at the anatomy of animals.
To explain an example of cutting on a particular type of meat.
So
like, kind of walk us through that.
When I first started, we would get all of our whole beef tenderloins, which is a fillet, we would get them with their side muscles on. And that was called a pismo, peeled side muscle on. Now, some people think that stands for side muscle off, but anyway, the side muscle and the strap would be on it. Basically, it was a pretty piece of meat cloaked in a bunch of ugly stuff. And the way you go about uncovering that piece of meat can be tragic or triumphant. And he could manipulate what was encasing or cloaking itself on this nice piece in such a detailed but quick way without really wasting anything red. Because what you want to see is everything white goes away and what you leave behind is red. And so even down to the thin fascia, which is that silver skin that's on the top of a tenderloin, it would be silver on both sides. And just like I just did the motion with my hand, that's all you would see from him. He'd have a hold of some portion of it, and the knife would slide beneath his hand out and rotate, come back. And he also taught us about the grains, right? So I can't go without mentioning Sean, because he was a big part of that qualitative thing. And Sean's still at the store, actually. So if anybody wants some really crazy stories about the connection between the old guys and the new guys, Sean Kelly and Lori Shepard are the two to really ask those questions to. But I've been around both of them long enough, and Dave and Vicky long enough, and the old crew long enough to know that the transition between the old era and the new era was actually kind of a difficult one. The boxing process, going from carcass beef to these things that are just wrapped in plastic and in a box, was not a smooth transition. It was easy for things to be hidden in a box, and it's not easy to hide things if they're coming in exposed to you. And so basically the way we go about qualitating the cooler and how we have to test things before they're sold is more on the spot now. Most things aren't even, the packages aren't even opened until the moment we need them, versus having to have tried to store things for a period of time to get them to temper.
So I'd like to give your parents a little bit of props on what your dad did previous. Wholesale meat company.
Yes.
And Kincaid's was first client.
That's right.
That is
so
a beautiful full circle
the
coming around.
The natural plug is that my father, who is the middle child of 7, and his father opened a beef company. Dugdale Beef Company is a wholesale meat company. My grandfather came from the stockyard, Stark and Wetzel. He came down here. He had been looking at carcass meat on foot, on its hooves, and structuring the genetics and trying to guess at what would be inside as far as the quality of the meat. Then that's all gotten really, really scientific since then. But he took the risk and moved to Indianapolis, built a large warehouse with some chains in it, just like you'd see in Rocky. Carcass beef started flying off of trucks that were refrigerated into a large room that was refrigerated.
And where was that location?
That was at 71st and Guyan Road.
Okay.
And that building's still there today. It's under the
Cisco over there?
Ideal Meat Packing Company's over there now.
Okay.
And we still do business with them because Dugdale Beef Company was sold in 2014, a year before the Joe Dugdale family bought Kincaid's Meat Market. So we never got to sell to ourselves, which would have been kind of cool. But Dugdale Beef Company started in 1974. My father, who was coincidentally about to go into college, decided to go help Grandpa at the meat wholesaler. And basically every brother and sister ended up there as well. Their first genuine customer was Kincaid's Meat Market. And so my dad would know of the woes happening during the holidays, and he'd say, you know, if you need a bunch of young lads to go box your turkeys for you, we'll send the boys over. And sure enough, we would come, and we built relationships with the family, and they got comfortable with us. And then eventually we just started asking customers that were staring at us if we could help them. And they'd say, can you put boneless, skinless chicken breasts in that bag? And I'd say, yeah. And they'd say, can you put it on the scale? I go, mm-hmm. But eventually that was just the comfort zone we stayed in, and it seemed more intimidating to the outside world than it was to us. So
now, and I'm going to this is going to be kind of a two-parter. So now you have a second location in Fishers.
That's right.
So, and John, your brother,
yes,
handles that location.
For the most part, yeah.
Where is that specifically?
It's at the yard in Fishers District. So they're
like cross streets.
Yeah, the 69 and 116th Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
And square footage and compared to this location?
It's a little bit bigger, but it doesn't have a basement. So it's all on one level. I think it's like 2,200 square feet, whereas this store's, Kincaid's, the old location's 1,700 with its basement.
And you said with this location here, average day you'd have around 6 people working, and the holidays it might go up to 9?
More like 9. We try to get to 10, but we don't want to get to the point where we're just clogging the register. We can only work at such a rate, right, and not make mistakes. So, but yeah, North Store. What were we asking about that? That was 2018 is when that location opened.
And so, what was? I mean, obviously, expanding, you can get to more clients, and you get more.
You're trying to
get another foothold in another
all your
area
eggs out of one basket, but also sort of try to interpret it a different way. It's not the same neighborhood. It's not the same age group. So we have a different overall popularity contest as far as what gets sold in that store. Is
there anything else close to that area that is competition? You don't have to say
it. Well, I mean, there's a Kroger in the parking lot, and they have a meat department. But there's Joe's Butcher Shop up in Carmel. There's a Moody's over there by North Central High School. There's all sorts of custom cut areas. So we just try to be as specific and customizable and patient as we can. I mean, I'm sure there's some intolerables out there, but we try not to find them. We'll individually wrap your breakfast links if you want. I don't care.
Right. So
you never know if grandma's alone, right? So that's why the license plate on my car is BSB 4BSB 1x1, because it's the shorthand I write for 4 boneless, skinless chicken breasts wrapped individually. It's just a reminder to be patient. The thing the incrementalizing that place is founded on.
All right, so I want to kind of bring it back with you. So when, excuse me, when I was in high school, one of my summer jobs was working at the 31 Flavors right down from Kincaid.
Yeah.
So I'd always go in there afterwards and pick up stuff my mom would request or whatnot. So when you were in high school, how did you get connected with, because your brother started when he was 20.
Yeah.
So how did you get connected? Was it from him starting and then you starting?
Absolutely. It was. Your brother's already doing it, so there's no reason you shouldn't be doing that as well.
Did you envision working at a meat shop, meat market or did you think,
no,
I'm going to go into this industry, or
honestly,
when I grow up, I'm going to blah, blah, blah?
If you're kind of good at a bunch of stuff, jacks of all trades need structure. So it was at least something to focus my productivity on. You know, if you have stable hands and you can pick up a box, then you can probably measure some stuff, and my building material just happens to be meat. So it's no different than bartending or construction. Everything needs a specific amount of detail-oriented supervision. Ours just happens to spoil.
And you also teach people when they come.
We try to. I like to just show people tips and tricks. They think that
give me some examples of that.
Nobody knows how to break down chicken super easily. So everybody wants a drumstick or a thigh, but it's always attached together as a whole leg. But there is a line of fat that has exposed itself on the meat side. You put your knife to the drumstick side of that line of fat, and you will slide through the joint every single time parallel to it. But I show people that while I'm talking to them, because I don't have to look anymore. You shouldn't have to. The joint's right there. But anyway, there's just lots of little things that I would love to just show people. And if they have the chance to, I go on anatomy rants all the time.
Do you give them meal ideas? Like, get a little bit of this, get some of that rub, get this sauce, and get this thing of this.
Absolutely. It starts like with the most common thing we sell, ground beef. If you're asking for ground beef, I genuinely want to know what you're making with it, because fat content's important. Burgers are going to drip down your arm. Bless them for that, right? But you may not want that in your chili, right? You may have to drain a fatty ground beef if you're making tacos or spaghetti. So you want a leaner variety, right? So that's sort of what I mean when I'm saying regular or extra lean. What are you making? Burgers. You want regular.
I say, so let's talk about some of your favorites per category.
Okay.
Favorite cheese you sell what's favorite cheese you sell that you love?
Hoffman's Super Sharp.
Hoffman's Super.
Yeah, it's a versatility king. If you've ever had broccoli cheddar soup, it's made with a super, super sharp cheddar cheese.
Okay.
Because broccoli itself is a strong flavor. And in order to compete with that, you got to sort of beat it up with a cheese that's, right? Super sharp cheddar cheese is exactly that, and it melts. So you can have it in sliced form and drape it over broccoli. And what'll happen with the broccoli steam and the cheese is you'll make yourself broccoli cheddar soup.
All right, so charcuterie.
Charcuterie. So I'd probably go with any Genoa salami. Boar's Head makes a really good Genoa salami. I'm a big smoked Thuringer fan. Most people don't even know it's a thing, but there is smoked salami. And smoked salami is really, really good, especially if you've ever had barbecue and been like, this is okay, right? Everything that's draped in smoke is a little bit better for some reason.
Or jams.
Oh, Stonewall Kitchen, for the most part, has taken over that. We used to have our own little category of jams, but we couldn't private label them anymore. But anywhere from truffle stuff all the way up to spicy things, and then all the holiday stuff. Yeah, I know, right? Truffle in your,
I love truffle.
Your jellies.
Yeah.
But there's mint, so, to each their own.
And then barbecue sauce.
As local as we can do. I just got a shipment in of Rasta Joe barbecue sauce from Roanoke, like literally before I came here. So
you said Rasta Joe?
Rasta Joe, yeah. He got a Jamaican rum inside his sauce somehow. You can't get drunk off of it. It's been whatever has happened.
Fermented down, so it's not too high of a proof.
Well, when they put it on heat and it flambés and the alcohol,
sure.
Yeah, burns away.
And what about your favorite rub?
Ooh, we were talking St. Elmo's earlier. Rasta Joe's is another good one. Ooh, high stakes. High stakes is another good one. So that one's made by a comedian friend of ours named Sean Latham, and so he made a spicier steak rub. So that one's another fan favorite. It's pretty abrasive. It scrapes really well. So
I would assume you're pretty good on the grill.
I try my best. Yeah, I'm more of a smoker.
If you've got 8 guys coming over on a Saturday night,
pork shoulder.
That's where you go?
Yep, I'd have started it that morning. I'd have waited till it was 200 degrees at 265.
Okay. Anything else you would add to that menu?
If I don't have any time, like if I can't get to that, probably just our burgers, because they're a crowd pleaser. And we make them every day, so there's...
What are they infused with, anything?
Nothing. But when you grind meat genuinely every day and get to take the articles of fat content you've collected, you can start to strategize your flavor profiles, right? So you may have noticed trends on menus that say, this is what our ground beef is made with. Well, so that gets brought back to me, and a customer will ask for a specific grind made with specific things, but they don't know our store yet, and it's already in there.
Okay.
They'll say, I want brisket, short rib, chuck, New York strip, ribeye, and I'm like, yep. It's all in there already. You just want to try our regular ground beef because you're at a butcher shop that cut all these steaks, and when they cut them, they trimmed the fat off of them. They went and added a really, really lean thing to all of the fat and started to get its fat content. So we start with this thing that's called a peeled knuckle, and the USDA prime peeled knuckle is 95% lean. So I have to fatten it up to get to extra lean ground beef. That's the item we grind for tartar and kibbe. The stuff people eat raw, it has to have very limited fat content because it's going to just get salt and peppered, put on a cracker, stuffed in your mouth.
Right.
But we accommodate that all the time, mostly European. But yeah, literally every single day I sell tartar. Something somebody's going to eat raw, which means I need to have a really clean grinder. So usually those customers know to call. Because you gotta take the grinder apart.
One of the last things I'm going to ask here, do you actually ever make a turducken?
Yeah. We made them, and we stopped making them about 2 years ago.
Too much headache?
I know exactly how to do it. It's a turkey wrapped over a duck, wrapped over a chicken. And when we built them, we wanted traditional Acadian, that's the real way you say Cajun, flavors in it. They've gotten lazy over the years. So down south, they were like, we're going to stuff all these things together. We're going to do a traditional herb stuffing inside of a turkey. We're going to put the duck on that. We're going to do a Cajun stuffing in the duck. We're going to put a chicken in that. We're going to do a traditional herb stuffing in the chicken. And then tie it all together. If you're clever, you can keep the drumsticks up on the turkey, and it'll look kind of cool. We weren't that clever. We just tried to get, a custom-built turducken made by Kincaid's Meat Market. So there was Jonathan Dugdale, God love him, sitting there boning out the biggest turkey breasts we can find from the companies that are reputable. So we are a Rosebud Farms company, and their biggest turkey breast is 16 pounds. They don't pump them with hormones. They're like, sorry, what do you want us to do? There's no 40-pounders running around. So the biggest breast we get is 16, bone it out, maybe 14.5. You take the lobes and open them up like a book so that you get twice the surface area. You drape a whole bunch of stuffing on that, which is something that needs to cook thoroughly on poultry, which is red flag number 1. Then you put more poultry on that, more stuffing, more poultry, duck then chicken. But it all got tied together, and we would make a max of 10 of them. They would come with very detail-oriented cooking instructions.
And they were like $5,000 a turducken.
They were about $150.
$150 for a turducken.
Because it's just poultry meat that we don't have much in it but time.
A lot of labor.
But we ended up having one get cooked in the plastic bag we had written to take off. And the twisty tie was on it, plastic melted to this stuff and all. We ruined Thanksgiving, and we were like, we're sorry. We are the helpful people. We're trying not to ever make a mistake. By the time we've ruined your Thanksgiving, we need to really relook at what it is we're offering and how exactly it is being interpreted.
Right.
So after that, it was, if we're going to sell a turducken we make, it's vacuum sealed. Right? There is no question, right? Because everything starts somewhere, and hindsight's always 20/20. So, but we stopped making them because too many wholesalers started having them frozen.
Got it.
For no time and box instructions, off. I'd rather just go grab a turkey and talk about how we're going to rub it, or do I heard dry brine this year, and I just kept thinking, isn't that like jumbo shrimp? doesn't brine, the definition, include water? Like, nah, this is a dry brine. I'm like, thanks, 2024. Amazing.
Okay, so my last question and area we're going to cover is, what would you like to say to your family for support, John, and then also what would you like to say to the community in general?
Well, first and foremost, to the family aspect, we really couldn't have the store without my parents working and staying true to themselves as far as not overspending and being frugal and trying to see the bigger picture for all of us. Because there's no way that while we were working that we could have imagined what we'd have now. And seeing the bigger picture for us was important, because now that we can see what we have, well, of course, we've seen it the entire time, but having a different title and having different responsibilities within it makes you see it in a different light. And so I have way more respect for my parents taking the opportunity, or it was a risk, right? These are volatile businesses with perishables. Who knows if we're going to have a global pandemic 5 years after we buy a store mid-loan? Like, we don't know. We're just going to try to do our best for the community we're serving. And therein lies the crux of all this. It's a location thing for Kincaid on Illinois Street. The neighborhood we're built within would do probably anything to keep it around, just because they appreciate what it offers. It's not necessarily the high quality meat. It's actually more of I need an interaction that's physical to do business. These are things I'm putting in my body, and that's important to me. So the fact that this area still thinks this is an important thing is something we can't really hang our hats on. It took work, and we had to gain their trust. Jonathan and I, working there for 10 years, helped smooth the transition for the purchase. We did not get letters in the mail worried. What's going to happen? Are you going to change anything? Why would we? We've watched the clock tick, right? It flows. I've memorized the 12-month schedule of this place, and I would like to add to it. I would like to add to it as the operating supervisor, though. We didn't know if that would be an option. The old family, Dave and Vicky, we didn't know if they weren't going to sell it to their only son. He simply wasn't interested. So that led us to be passionate about trying to get our feet in the door.
And keep your feet grounded.
And keep them there, right? But that takes communicating with the community we're in. And once a year, I try to have what I call Customer Appreciation Day. It's the Thursday before the 4th of July every year. And we, as a family, just the Dugdales, thought it would be a nice idea to give our customers a reason to be with us that wasn't a transaction. And from that spawned this tent-covered, music-filled food festival we have in the back parking lot. But it's almost the most important thing we do, because fundamentally it comes from a different perspective. It's the relationships we've built with these people, and it's more proof that we're actually interested in what you have to say.
Right.
So come be with us and chat with us, knowing there's no strings attached.
Right.
It's tough to detach those strings when you're selling people stuff.
Sure.
Right. So yes, I know you trust me. I built that over time. Why don't we step to the back and have a beer? Like, can we do that? Of course. That would be a nice thing for this area. I think so too, and that's me chatting with some hypothetical person, but
Right.
Those are the chats I was imagining to have when I was, selling things for money. We're not all the best salesmen, right? If I could give it away for free, keep the lights on, and the staff paid, I would. That's just not feasible. And our customers know that, right? So they would say to me, if you're not going to make money on this transaction, I'm not going to buy it.
Right.
We need that. And there's no duplicating that.
Well, Joe, I really appreciate your time coming in here today for Saving Stories at the Meridian. And that's savingstoriesmeridian.com. There's a lot of other local business owners and community leaders that are there, but yours is one of the oldest for this area. And actually, since this building came around in 1880, it wasn't that much further down the road that you guys showed up originally. You know, it was the original Kincaid Meat Market. So
made it through the Great Depression with you, yeah.
Yeah, you and John have done a great job. I've known John for a few years, but I think you guys, are a very good brotherhood team, and it's great that
we're
he's
trying our best,
able to expand up to the northeast side of Indianapolis. Well, thank you very much for your time, and
thank you.
Great job on all
Happy
the meats and all the vittles that everybody loves.
We'll keep doing our best.
Okay.